It's an ML Sports Take brought to you by Bonnet Sales and Service, Platinum Auto Sales of Central New York, and our great friends at Rosie's Corner. Fish Friday is today, Route 11 in Brewerton. Get on over to Rosie's in front of the Brewerton Bridge. Pizza, pasta, Fish Friday, you name it, mac and cheese, everything at Rosie's. Try the Meatball Bomber and the Gold Fever Wings ASAP as well. Penn State football. This is a college football playoff team the last decade or so, maybe even plus, if they had 12 teams. Now you have 12 teams finally, and I heard a lot of people say, before the year, well, another 10-2 season, they're not going to be Ohio State, Michigan. Okay, but 10-2 for Penn State probably gets them into the college football playoff. I think there's three keys for Penn State. Line of scrimmage, both offense and defense. Number two is that offensive line, if it is successful, that helps the quarterback and Drew Aller really do his thing. They're going to want to run the football like crazy as well. And then I think number three is beating the teams you're supposed to beat, continuing on the Nittany Lion tradition of the last, 50, 60 years where they do win those games, and then it's those big marquee matchups. Okay, are you a one-loss or two-loss team? There are a lot of teams in college football that would love to be 9-3, 10-2, 11-1 every single year, and every 5, 8, 10, 12 years be in the national championship, real conversation. Unfortunately, expectations at schools like Michigan, Oregon, Ohio State, these schools, Clemson, Georgia, they're through the roof. And, we got five teams like that now in the Big Ten, you could say, right? Including the staples in Penn State, Ohio State, and Michigan. Now you add Oregon to that. It's going to be a tough go. It's going to be a really tough go schedule-wise for Penn State because of where they are. But I think this team is really, really good again, but it's going to be those factors again for me in terms of them being able to, not squeak in, but get in to the college football playoff. And, like I said, the last dozen or so years, decade, whatever you want to call it, they have had a good enough team to get into a final 12 set. You just haven't had the expanded playoff, and it should benefit them more than anybody if this season goes like the rest of those other ones that I brought up. But Drew Aller is a big dude. He's 6'5", 245. He's from the Midwest. He knows the Big Ten well. They're going to want to run the football like crazy with the likes of, Katron Allen and company, the junior out of Virginia. They've got the kid Davis. These guys are going to want to run it down your throats. Their defense should be very, very formidable as well. And we'll see if Penn State can get into the college football playoff, an area that they would have been in the last several years had they had it available. But Drew Aller, when you look at his stats, he jumped from, a 2022 season. He didn't play that much, but man, you look at the year he had last year, 2,300 yards. And here's the key statistic. He only had one interception to 23 touchdowns. He was so efficient, it wasn't even funny. And now you look at him growing, you look at a better ground game, you look at James Franklin and his staff growing. This is going to be an interesting season for him. And oh, by the way, you add the former Kansas offensive coordinator in terms of Andy Kotelnicki to this staff, and you look at Kotelnicki and you look at Aller and what they might be able to do together, this could be an offense that is unleashed more off of a little bit of RPO with that staple ground game. Penn State, my prediction is that they will get in to the college football playoff. Their schedule, obviously, is Big Ten heavy. We know that, but they have the ability, not easily, but they have the ability to win 10 games. They should start, at West Virginia is going to be a tough one, I think, in week one. That game's the nooner on, for the Fox broadcast. But then they should roll the next several opponents. Bowling Green, Kent State, Illinois, UCLA, all at home. At USC, tough game, but should win it. Wisconsin on the road, tough game, should win it. Ohio State, tough game, coin flip because they're home. You got Washington, but then you got Purdue on the road, at Minnesota, Maryland at home. Really, they're two huge, crucial games. USC and Ohio State by the rankings, you split those, you beat everybody else, you go 11-1. Let's say you start off bad and slow, whatever, you lose at West Virginia, you never know, you could come back and start getting stronger as the season goes on. You could win at Ohio State and still end up at 11-1. Schedule looks really good, and on it goes. But the schedule to me looks really good. There's no Oregon, there's no Michigan, there is Ohio State, and there is USC. But again, very winnable games. And why couldn't they knock off Ohio State? Because that's a home game. I'm assuming they'll do the whiteout at that particular point. Penn State, look for all those things I just mentioned to get them into the dozen for the new expanded college football playoff. Mike Lindsley here. It's an ML Sports Take brought to you by Bonnet Sales and Service, Burn Dairy, CH Insurance, and our great friends over at Stanley Law Offices. Stanley Law Offices, together, they'll work to get you the maximum reward. And I do want to thank friends of the program, the Swan and Whitaker families, Bob Lindsley, Daryl Abert, John Kilb, Matthew Gutierrez, and Dave Midgley. As I always tell you, enjoy the games.